Hello everyone, welcome to Esports Insider's new podcast, ESI Digest. I'm your host Adam Fitch. I'm also the editor of the publication, which is undoubtedly at this point the best publication in the world when it comes to the esports business side of things. So this podcast in particular will be a short but sweet recap of the week that's just gone on, explaining why things matter and actually what things mean in context as opposed to just headlines, you know. It's very hard to stay on top of everything, especially on a Friday afternoon. If it's been a particularly busy week, you don't want to have to troll through many articles to understand what's going on. So hopefully this can provide some service. It'll be available on YouTube, all the podcast platforms you'd expect, and if that's not the case, then let us know and we will work on that, as well as having a small write-up as well in the same article where you'll find all of the links to actually listen and watch. So yeah, wasting no more time, we'll get straight into it. 3 executives from FaZe Clan have departed. So that's Greg Selko, Clinton Sparks, and Will Eddins, who are the president, the VP of BizDev, and the VP of Apparel, I believe, have all departed. Now, a New York Times article let it be known that XSET is a new organisation that we'll all be working on, and the article framed it as if all of them had left specifically to work on XSET. And then in the article they framed it as in all organisations are like frat houses, and we're going to really push for like social good, social justice in a sense, and you know, inclusivity and diversity. Now, that would be great, but the timing in which it is dropped suggests to me that they were just capitalising on the kind of movement that's going on right now on a global basis, and trying to get any sort of like clout or head start they could on that front. But sources behind the scenes told me that it's actually been in the works for 6 months, and it's not an easy thing to get an organisation going with all the assets and material needed to really give it a solid launch. But also, different sources behind the scenes told me that the FaZe Clan wanted to remove, or started speaking to Greg about him departing the role in January of this year, and it was announced internally in mid-May. And then the other two, so Clinton and Will, actually handed in their letters of resignation earlier this week, around the time of the article dropping. So it was framed as if they'd left, that Greg had left specifically because he didn't like FaZe Clan anymore, and he thought he could do something different with XSET, but that is not quite the case. He would have been on the way out either way. So he just kind of seemingly jumped on board with XSET, and then business partners or people he's very close with, Clinton and Will, had followed suit. That's everything I've learned behind the scenes there, to be more transparent than the New York Times article, which I think deliberately framed things differently without explicitly saying it, you know. So we'll move on. There's been more management changes, but it's on the other side of the planet. It's in Australia, Oceanic region. Direwolves, plenty of changes this week. I think they've called it like the week of the wolf or something along those lines. And we've had exclusive comments and interviews for each of the developments that we've covered at Esports Insider. So there's been new management. So from the top down, it's realistically they brought in Jason Spiller as the new owner, and then a lot of supplementary staff for like a big push to make Direwolves seemingly the biggest organisation in the region, kind of battling the Chiefs and Order seem to be the two organisations that they'll be battling from my perspective. Now, they've also consolidated teams. That was under the banner of the Esports High Performance Centre. They had multiple team brands, and they've consolidated most of those under Direwolves. So now it's in Overwatch and NBA 2K and I think Valorant, as well as League of Legends, which Direwolves was kind of synonymous and definitely well known for. So as well as that, it also released a rebrand, unveiled a rebrand, a new logo, kind of explained the ethos behind it. As I say, we've got deep dives with comments from the executives at the organisation and those who invest in the organisation to really explain all of these moves and why they think it was worthwhile them really being made, you know, and to really push this organisation, which of course is got the naming sponsor of LG, so that's a vote of confidence anyway. So really capitalising on that and giving it a push instead of having a fragmented kind of effort across multiple team brands. It seems like this consolidation is in an effort to really capitalise on the fact that there's an opportunity to be the leading Oceanic team and organisation. So that's how I see that. And as I say, if you want more insight into that, then you can go to the website. There are multiple articles, all with quite intensive and quite in-depth explanations behind them. And staying in the Oceanic region, Eden Park, which is the home of the national rugby team, in New Zealand is getting its own esports facility, quite like the Twickenham Stadium in London, obviously the headquarters of XSET Esports, one of the biggest British organisations. So it's done by Guinevere Capital, which is behind the Esports High Performance Centre and Direwolves and such. So I don't think Direwolves will class this as its official headquarters by any means, but I think it will be using it quite a bit and utilising it where necessary. But it seems as if, based on our conversations and based on what's in the article, that it will be open for all to use within reason, with the judgment of Dave Harris and those who would be running it there. So quite a big week for Oceanic Esports, I suggest, Australian and New Zealand. Quite interesting, and I've noticed a lot of partnerships and a lot of growth in that aspect, in that region over the past few months, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down. In fact, it seems like Direwolves is obviously shaping up to do something bigger and shift it up a gear as such. So that's everything we've got in the Oceanic region. Swiftly moving on, Vayner Gaming is a new division. So it's a new division of Vayner Sports, which is a sports representation and management company and firm, obviously by AJ and Gary Vaynerchuk brothers. Entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, everyone knows him. Obviously also somewhat behind the Minnesota Rocker Call of Duty team. So this is like a further vote of confidence with him in gaming and esports. That's officially been announced now. I think it's been known behind the scenes for quite some time. They've been repping Booga, the first and only Fortnite World Cup champion at this point, and they actually renegotiated his deal with Sentinels, the North American organisation, recently, and that's seemingly been a success because I haven't seen that they've parted ways. So it seems like they'll be getting more into representing players. I don't know if they're targeting Fortnite in particular, or if they're doing North America only or anything like that. That's quite under wraps, I think, at this point. But it'll be interesting to see where they go. They've had quite a lot of success in traditional sports, so and I guess the competition and representation in esports, as long as it's professional, is really interesting and probably quite conducive to a better atmosphere, better environment, and thus just a better industry on that side of things. So Getty Images, you'll know from traditional sports and taking pictures of celebrities and such, has gotten into esports already through Gran Turismo and the W Series Esports League, which is a sim racing kind of alternative to it's a woman's only motorsport racing series. So it's now kind of it's flagging esports and said, look, we're here to stay, and proving it with at least a 4-year deal with Riot Games for League of Legends esports, specifically on a global level, so not necessarily being the sole image provider and distribution partner for the LEC and the LCS, but more so for the World Championship, which is apparently still going ahead this year, but there's nothing new on that yet, just a bunch of rumours. The mid-season invitational and the All-Star event. So that will go on for 4 years at least. The wording makes it sound like they're hopeful for more, but that's where they're going for right now. They definitely wanted to make sure it was at least 2024, so there's probably an option in there for a renewal. But they'll see how it goes. Obviously, COVID's making things a bit difficult right now to be taking photos of events because you can't have these events. So we'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully in 2021 onwards, things will be a lot safer and we can kind of get back to business and kickstart esports again as we knew it and as we know it. So that's that on that front. And the last thing we'll cover very quickly is Demise, which is a British esports organisation partnering with Kappa, an Italian sportswear brand known pretty much globally, I'm pretty sure, in a 3-year deal, much like Kappa has signed, I think, with all of its esports partners, if not then the majority of its esports partners so far. One thing I want to note is, yes, it's a UK-based organisation, and no, it's not the first that Kappa has partnered with in esports. There's also Diabolus, and there's also Vexed Gaming, and this has been over the past year. I think it's been less than a year, probably 9-10 months at this point. As well as partnerships with Mad Lions, which is a Spanish brand but run by Canadian ownership group, as well as RNG, Royal Never Give Up, obviously Asian organisation. That's quite a tongue twister on a Friday afternoon. But nonetheless, Kappa is obviously identified UK esports as a potential market that you can at least get into, where it's probably not going to be much competition from Nike, Adidas, Puma, who are going for the kind of bigger dogs in North America and Asia. So that's something as well that I've noticed. Kappa going for UK esports, which is a vote of confidence for this, at least my local and domestic esports scene, which is quite underserved in quite some ways, but also underperforming as opposed to North America or something. But it seems as if it's going for those with maybe the hyper localized fan base who have captured a particular market within that fan base, as opposed to a globally renowned and globally supported organisation like Cloud9. But this has been ESI Digest. As I say, it'll be available everywhere, hopefully. But if it's not where you expect it to be, then let me know personally, and we can try and work that out for you. And I'm sure it'll get better over time. I just want to make sure that we're constantly improving, constantly providing as much value as we can, and not rushing through things, but giving enough depth while keeping it short enough for you to just listen to quickly and understand everything that's gone on, all the major developments at least. And I'm sure we can continue to provide that on a weekly basis, Friday afternoons in the UK, so probably Friday morning to afternoons in the US, and you can convert that to your time zone if you're outside of those two. Thank you very much for listening or watching or reading the article if that's how you choose to do so, and I will see you next week. Cheers.